Saturday mornings once felt unstoppable. Neon heroes, exploding theme songs, worlds bigger than we understood. Yet behind the cereal bowls and living room carpets, a brutal truth ruled television. If the toys did not sell, the story did not survive. These were not bad cartoons. They were bold experiments cut down mid-flight. Tonight, we revisit 15 brilliant 80s series that vanished without closure and uncover why creativity alone was never enough. The world ended in the year 1994. A runaway planet tore the moon apart, and civilization fell into ash. Out of that rubble rose a sun-scorched wasteland ruled by wizards who mixed ancient magic with lost science. That was the pulse of Thundarr the Barbarian, a sword-swinging hero, a fierce sorceress named Ariel, a gentle but powerful mock named Ukla. Together they roamed broken America, fighting tyrants who ruled over ruined cities that looked like twisted versions of Los Angeles and New York. The series was created by Steve Gerber and produced by Ruby Spears. Comic book legend Jack Kirby even contributed character designs. The show had cinematic backgrounds and a gritty mood that felt closer to heavy metal fantasy than Saturday morning fluff. It was violent by early 80s standards and carried an apocalyptic tone that networks were not always comfortable promoting. It ran for only 2 seasons, no dramatic finale, no proper goodbye. Ratings were not disastrous, yet the toy line never exploded, and network priorities shifted toward lighter, more marketable concepts. The world of Thundarr simply faded from the schedule. But here is what makes the cancellation sting. The show planted seeds that later animated epics would harvest. Its post-apocalyptic aesthetic influenced action cartoons throughout the decade. Fans still remember that opening narration as if it were a prophecy. Thundarr did not fail creatively. It was cut down before it could fully shape its legend. And if that felt bold for its time, wait until you see what happened when space cowboys rode into the next battle. Imagine the Wild West reborn in deep space, frontier colonies on distant planets, a team of lawkeepers enhanced with cybernetic implants. That was The Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. It followed Captain Zachary Fox and his crew as they defended the frontier against alien empires and criminal syndicates. Unlike most cartoons of its era, this one treated its audience with respect. Characters had emotional backstories. Plots carried continuity. Consequences lingered. The series was developed by Robert Mandel and produced by TMS Entertainment. The animation quality stood above many of its American counterparts because much of it was handled overseas with care. Episodes dealt with trauma loss and moral compromise. One storyline even explored the psychological cost of memory manipulation on Captain Fox. For a children's cartoon in 1986, that was daring territory. Yet, despite critical praise and a loyal niche audience, the show never received a second life beyond its initial run. Merchandising was modest. It did not have the toy juggernaut push of other franchises. Syndication schedules were inconsistent, which made it hard for viewers to follow serialized arcs. Networks leaned toward brighter, simpler formulas. Still, its legacy whispers through modern animation. Fans and creators alike cite it as a precursor to sophisticated sci-fi storytelling on television. It proved that animated heroes could wrestle with inner demons as well as alien threats. And if networks struggled with mature space drama, they were about to face an even stranger challenge when dinosaurs from another dimension crashed onto Earth. 2 worlds locked in eternal war, one ruled by wisdom, the other by hunger for conquest. When a rift between dimensions opens, the battle spills onto Earth. That is where Dinosaucers begins. The humanoid dinosaurs from the planet Reptilon arrive with advanced tech and ancient grudges. The noble Dinosaucers ally with a group of human teens. The villainous Tyrannos seek domination. Laser fire meets prehistoric instinct. The series was created by Michael E. Uslan and produced by DIC Entertainment. It balanced action with humor in a way that felt strangely self-aware. Characters made sharp jokes. The villains were flamboyant, yet dangerous. It never treated its premise as a simple toy commercial. The show built lore around transformation pods, energy crystals, and a long history between rival species. But the series lasted only 1 season. Ratings were respectable. The real issue was merchandise performance. The toy line failed to explode in a market crowded by giants like Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And without retail dominance, networks had little incentive to extend production. The story stopped without resolution. The dimensional rift never fully closed. Yet Dinosaucers gained a cult following over time. Fans praise its witty dialogue and imaginative character designs. It stands as proof that creativity alone was not enough in the 80s. Commercial synergy ruled Saturday mornings. If the shelves were empty, the screen went dark. And just when you think corporate pressure was harsh, wait until you hear what happened to a team of metallic heroes who flew too close to licensing wars. 5 small robots, 1 brilliant inventor. Together, they combine into a towering guardian called Mighty Orbots. The premise sounds familiar, yet the tone felt different. The series followed Rob Simmons and his robot companions as they defended Earth from the shadowy Plasmus and his monstrous minions. Each robot had a distinct personality. There was humor, but also emotional warmth. Produced by TMS Entertainment with collaboration from Fred Silverman, the animation quality was striking. Designs were sleek, action sequences were fluid. The villains had a cosmic horror edge that separated the show from brighter superhero cartoons. It felt polished and ambitious. Then it vanished after only 13 episodes. Not because viewers rejected it, not because stories ran dry. The problem was legal conflict. Universal Studios claimed similarities to its own properties. A lawsuit emerged. Licensing disputes tangled the brand. Even the toy rights were complicated. Our networks rarely fight prolonged legal battles over children's programming. It was easier to walk away. So Mighty Orbots became a footnote instead of a franchise. Fans still recall its opening theme and detailed animation. Many argue it rivaled bigger robot shows of its era in quality. In the 80s, imagination was not always the deciding factor. Contracts were, courtrooms, and sometimes brilliance was silenced by paperwork before it could even roar. Part metal, part real. All heroes. That was the promise of Silverhawks. In the distant galaxy of Limbo, a team of cybernetically enhanced law enforcers protected the cosmos from the crime lord Monstar. Leader Quicksilver, the sharp-eyed Bluegrass, the fierce Steelheart. Each hero was surgically rebuilt to survive space and wield sonic weaponry. It felt like a spiritual sibling to Thundercats, yet colder, harder, more cosmic. The series was developed by Rankin Bass and animated by Pacific Animation Corporation in Japan. The designs were sleek and futuristic. The theme song was unforgettable. The show blended rock opera energy with superhero drama. Villains were grotesque and theatrical. The universe had scope. It promised an expanding saga, yet it lasted only 1 season of 65 episodes. That sounds substantial, but in syndication terms, it was a single production block. There was no continuation, no second wave. Toy sales plateaued. The novelty of metallic heroes did not dominate shelves the way executives hoped. Networks shifted attention toward fresher properties. Silverhawks drifted into reruns. Still, its aesthetic left a mark. On the mix of space western tone and operatic villainy inspired later animated sci-fi. Fans continue to champion it as a hidden gem of the decade. It was not a failure of imagination. It was a casualty of shifting trends and retail math. And if cybernetic guardians were not strange enough, the next entry dared to merge medieval knights with holographic animals in a gamble that burned bright and vanished even faster. A world where technology collapses and magic awakens. That is the foundation of Visionaries' Knights of the Magical Light. On the planet, Prismos machines suddenly fail. Ancient sorcery returns. 2 rival factions emerge. The noble spectral knights, the ruthless darkling lords. Each warrior carries a staff that unleashes a holographic animal spirit in battle. Lions soar, dragons blaze. It looked unlike anything else on television. The series was produced by Sunbow Productions and animated by TMS Entertainment. Writers crafted a serialized arc centered on betrayal, power, and prophecy. The tone was surprisingly serious. Characters wrestled with leadership and ambition. The animation quality was sharp. The world building felt expansive, but it survived for only 13 episodes. The culprit was again merchandising. The hologram action figures were innovative yet expensive to produce. Sales faltered. Without strong retail performance, Hasbro ended support. Networks followed the money. The story froze mid-conflict. No grand resolution, no redemption. Over time, Visionaries earned cult status. Fans admire its bold concept and serialized storytelling. It is often cited as one of the most creative toy-driven cartoons of the era. Ironically, it may have been too ambitious for its own marketing strategy. In the brutal ecosystem of 80s, television imagination was tested not only by ratings, but by the checkout aisle. And the next series would prove that even horror-infused storytelling could not escape that reality. It opened with scientists drilling into the earth and unleashing something ancient, something enormous, something that should have remained buried. Inhumanoids followed the Earth core as they battled towering subterranean monsters like Decompose and Metlar. These were not goofy villains, they were nightmare fuel. Decaying giants who dissolved flesh and crushed cities without remorse. Are produced by Sunbow Productions, the same studio behind G.I. Joe and Transformers. This series leaned hard into horror. The tone was darker than almost anything on Saturday mornings. Characters were threatened with death. Entire cities were nearly annihilated. The creature designs were grotesque and unforgettable. It felt closer to a monster film than a toy commercial. That darkness came its undoing. Parents complained. Networks grew uneasy with the intensity. The toy line underperformed in a crowded market. After a single season of 13 episodes, the show disappeared. No proper ending. The monsters simply stopped rising. Yet decades later, Inhumanoids is remembered for its boldness. It proved children's animation could flirt with genuine terror. Many fans argue it was ahead of its time. Today, darker animated storytelling thrives, but in 1986, it was considered too much for breakfast cereal hours. And if horror was too intense for executives, imagine trying to sell a superhero team built around a multicultural family in a market that barely knew how to market diversity. A mother, a father, 4 children, all transformed into cybernetic heroes by a brilliant scientist. That was Bionic 6. Instead of a lone masked crusader, this series centered on a family unit enhanced with advanced technology to fight the villainous Dr. Scarab and his bizarre henchmen. Each member had a unique ability. They argued, they supported each other, they felt human despite their metal upgrades. The show was produced by TMS Entertainment and distributed by MCA Television. Our animation quality stood above many contemporaries. Fight sequences were fluid. Character designs were distinctive. What truly set it apart was representation. The family was interracial. That detail was handled casually and positively in an era when such diversity was rare in animation. So why did it fade after 2 seasons? Merchandise again played a central role. The toy line failed to gain traction against giants dominating store shelves. Without strong sales backing, the network interest cooled. Ratings alone were not enough to justify continuation. Its legacy endures quietly. Fans praise its progressive family dynamic and slick animation. It demonstrated that superhero storytelling could revolve around domestic bonds rather than lone vigilantes. In the 80s, even innovation needed a retail empire to survive. And next comes a high-speed adventure that tried to blend racing thrills with espionage, but never got the lap it deserved. Fast cars, secret missions, a brother and sister living double lives. Pole Position was not just about racing. It followed Dan and Tess Darrett, who appeared to run an amusement park stunt show by day, while secretly working as government agents for an organization known as the Road Construction Crew. Their vehicles were equipped with advanced AI and cutting-edge tech. Every episode combined high-speed chases with espionage intrigue. The series was produced by DIC Entertainment and loosely inspired by the popular arcade racing game. Unlike many game adaptations, it did not simply recycle gameplay. It created a spy adventure framework layered with family dynamics. Dan was impulsive and bold. Tess was analytical and sharp. Their talking cars added humor without undermining the action. The tone balanced energy with genuine stakes. Despite a promising concept, it lasted only 13 episodes. The issue was not a creative collapse. It was momentum. Ratings were decent, but not explosive. The toy tie-ins struggled to compete with action figure-heavy franchises that dominated shelf space. Without a strong merchandise engine, the network saw little long-term upside. The show never received a second season order. Its cancellation feels abrupt when viewed in hindsight. The mix of racing culture and covert operations could have evolved into something larger. Today, that blend feels ahead of its time. Streaming platforms now thrive on hybrid genres that once confused executives. Pole Position did not fail because it lacked imagination. It was simply caught in a market that demanded immediate commercial domination. And just when you think anthologies might have offered safer ground, the next entry proves even variety could not shield a series from early extinction. Instead of one universe, the comic strip offered 4. It was an anthology block featuring Tiger Shark, Street Frogs, Mini-Monsters, and Karate Cat. Each segment had its own tone. Underwater superheroes fought mutant threats. Anthropomorphic bikers battled villains in neon cities. Tiny monsters navigated slapstick chaos. A martial arts cat delivered fast-paced parody. It felt experimental and energetic. Produced by DIC Entertainment, this format allowed creators to test multiple concepts at once. Tiger Sharks, in particular, carried the DNA of action-heavy predecessors like Thundercats. Animation quality varied, yet the ambition was clear. The show attempted to hedge its bets by offering diversity in style and narrative. The experiment was short-lived. After one season, the block vanished. Ratings were fragmented because audiences gravitated towards specific segments rather than the package as a whole. Merchandising became complicated since each property required its own strategy. Networks prefer clarity. A comic strip offered variety, but not a single brand identity strong enough to anchor a long run. Over time, Tiger Sharks and even Street Frogs earned small cult followings. Fans revisit episodes online and wonder what might have happened if one segment had been allowed to stand alone. The anthology structure may have diluted its survival chances, even though it showcased creativity. In the competitive battlefield of 80s, television being good at several things sometimes meant never being great at one in the eyes of executives. And next comes a spacefaring quest that ended before its hero could ever complete his journey. A hero searching for his father across the galaxy. A scientist whose experiments spiraled out of control. Sentient plant monsters known as the Monster Minds spreading like a mechanical plague. That was Jace and the Wheeled Warriors. The premise carried emotional weight from the start. Jace was not simply fighting evil. He was trying to reunite his fractured family while leading a band of allies in transforming battle vehicles. The series was produced by DIC Entertainment and based on a toy line from Mattel. What set it apart was its serialized narrative. Each episode pushed Jace closer to finding his father Audric. Clues surfaced. Hope flickered. The villain Sawboss loomed as an ever-present threat. Unlike many contemporaries, the story had a clear destination. It felt like a journey rather than an endless loop of isolated battles. Yet that journey never reached its destination. The show ended after 65 episodes without resolving the central quest. A cancellation was tied directly to toy sales. Mattel expected stronger retail performance. When numbers disappointed, support was withdrawn. Networks rarely continue an action cartoon without merchandise backing. The story was left unfinished. Jace never found his father on screen, so its legacy carries a bittersweet tone. Fans still debate how the saga might have concluded. The theme song remains iconic. The vehicle designs are remembered fondly. Jace demonstrated that children could follow ongoing arcs and emotional stakes. But in the commercial logic of the 80s, unfinished business did not matter if the cash register fell silent. And just when you think familiarity might have offered safety, the next series tried reviving a beloved classic character, only to discover nostalgia alone could not guarantee survival. A bouncing white creature with endless powers returns. Originally created by cartoonist Al Capp in the 1940s, the Schmoo was a whimsical character who could transform into anything useful. The new Schmoo reimagined this concept within a mystery adventure framework. Teen sleuths Mickey and Billy received help from their shape-shifting companion as they solved crimes and outsmarted villains. Produced by Hanna-Barbera, the series blended classic cartoon charm with 80s pacing. The Schmoo was adorable, yet surprisingly versatile in action sequences. The show carried a lighter tone than many action-heavy contemporaries. It leaned into comedy while still delivering suspenseful plots. Animation style retained the studio's familiar aesthetic, which made it visually comforting. Despite brand recognition, it lasted only 13 episodes. Audience response was modest. In an era dominated by explosive toy-driven action series, a softer mystery comedy struggled to command attention. There was limited merchandising potential compared to robotic warriors and laser-firing heroes. Networks quickly shifted focus to properties with louder commercial appeal. Still, the new Schmoo is remembered with affection by fans who appreciated its blend of nostalgia and adventure. It represented an attempt to bridge generations through animation. The cancellation was not dramatic. It simply faded amid louder competitors. Sometimes brilliance in the 80s was quiet, and quiet rarely survived the roar of corporate expectation. Up next comes a superhero crossover that united pulp legends, yet still could not outrun the limits of its era. 4 legends, 1 shared battlefield. Flash Gordon, the Phantom, Mandrake the Magician, Lothar. Characters born in newspaper strips decades earlier suddenly united in a futuristic war against Ming the Merciless. Defenders of the Earth felt epic from its first frame. It carried a dramatic orchestral theme. It treated its heroes as icons rather than punchlines. Their children even joined the fight, creating generational tension within the story. Produced by King Features Syndicate and animated overseas with strong visual detail, the series attempted something bold. It merged pulp adventure heritage with modern 80s sci-fi aesthetics. Mandrake's illusions clashed with laser cannons. The Phantom's jungle legacy met space tyranny. The tone was serious. Stakes were high. Characters faced betrayal loss and moral tests rarely seen in comparable cartoons. The show ran for 65 episodes, yet never received a continuation. Our ratings were solid in some markets, but inconsistent in others. Merchandising did not explode as hoped. The property relied on characters that were famous to older generations, but less familiar to young viewers at the time. Without overwhelming commercial momentum, networks hesitated to extend production. The grand battle against Ming did not expand into further seasons. Today, Defenders of the Earth is viewed as a rare crossover experiment that respected its source material. It proved that serialized pulp heroes could coexist within an animated universe long before cinematic universes became a standard formula. Its cancellation was not due to creative collapse. It was another reminder that legacy characters still needed fresh retail success to survive in the 80s ecosystem. And just when you think epic scope might protect a series, the next entry shows how even high-concept adventure can vanish before it finds stable footing. Picture elite soldiers battling a tyrant across remote mountain ranges using grappling hook technology that lets them zip through the sky. That was Sky Commanders. The show followed General Lucas Plague and his Sky Commanders as they fought the ruthless Raider General. Their unique hook and glide system created dynamic aerial action sequences unlike anything else on television at the time. Produced by Hanna-Barbera, concept was directly tied to an innovative toy line that featured motorized zip-line playsets. The animation emphasized vertical movement. Characters soared across canyons. Battles unfolded mid-air. The series felt cinematic in its staging. It aimed to redefine how action cartoons visualized combat. Yet it ended after 13 episodes. The toy line proved expensive to manufacture and difficult to maintain in stores. Without strong retail demand, the financial engine stalled. Ratings alone were insufficient to justify continuation. The network opted not to order additional episodes. The sky literally went silent. Its legacy is tied to its ambition. Fans remember the hook technology and intense mountain warfare. Sky Commanders attempted to build an entire narrative around vertical mobility, which was creatively bold. But innovation in play design did not translate into sustained commercial power. In the ruthless landscape of 80s, programming gravity always pulled projects back to Earth if profits did not keep them airborne. And the final entry on this list may be the most unexpected of all, because it centered on a puzzle that briefly became a global obsession. At the height of a global puzzle craze, a strange little hero bounced onto television screens. Rubik, the Amazing Cube, followed 3 siblings who discover a magical Rubik's Cube capable of speech transformation and interdimensional travel. With a twist of his colorful body, Rubik could reshape himself into bridges, rockets, even disguises. Each episode blended light adventure with problem-solving logic and sibling teamwork. Produced by Ruby Spears Productions, the series leaned into fantasy rather than pure marketing spectacle. Rubik had personality. He was playful, yet wise. The tone carried warmth and gentle humor instead of relentless combat. Visually, the show embraced bright colors and fluid morphing animation to emphasize the cube's elastic abilities. It felt imaginative in a quieter way than many laser-heavy contemporaries. Yet the series survived for only 13 episodes. The Rubik's Cube toy itself experienced a meteoric rise, followed by a sharp decline in mainstream popularity. Once the craze cooled, networks saw less incentive to continue a show tied to a fading fad. Without sustained retail frenzy, the cartoon lost its commercial anchor. There was no dramatic controversy, no creative implosion. It simply vanished as quickly as it arrived. Its legacy remains surprisingly fond. Viewers who remember it often describe it as charming and inventive. It stood apart from action-saturated programming by focusing on clever solutions and sibling bonds. In an era obsessed with explosive battles, Rubik offered imagination through transformation rather than destruction. And that brings us to the bigger question: why did so many inventive cartoons of the 80s disappear, despite bold worlds, rich characters, and loyal fans? The answer lies in an industry ruled less by storytelling and more by sales sheets. Creative ambition often played second fiddle to merchandise performance. If toys moved, the show survived. If shelves stagnated, the story stopped. Before you decide these cancellations were random, remember this era rewarded synergy above all else. In the shadows of neon graphics and unforgettable theme songs, brilliant series were cut short, not because they lacked vision, because they lacked retail dominance. Now here is the hook that ties them all together. These were not failures. They were experiments born in a decade that treated imagination as both art and advertisement. Some burned brightly, then vanished. Others quietly shaped the future of animation. And every one of them proves that sometimes the most brilliant ideas are not the ones that last the longest, but the ones that refuse to be forgotten. If any of these shows lived in your memory, drop the name below. Which cancellation still frustrates you? Which forgotten hero deserves a revival? The 80s were ruthless, but legends never truly fade. Subscribe for more deep dives into the stories networks ended too soon.